Hey horror fans, welcome back to Room 237, coming at you with another random Netflix Hulu review, and this is one from Hulu. This is one that came out in 2017, I believe. I'll say it when I go back, but I remember when this came out and I was thinking, Nicolas Cage in a horror movie? It's kind of strange. Lo and behold, he'll be doing like 64 horror films a month for following years. But it is horror the the horror dark comedy Mom and Dad. Fun fucking movie. And I'll say again, there's a difference between horror comedy and comedy horror. I did a top 10 example for each one. Go check those out. What this film is take, which I thought was a very interesting premise. Take the concept of the crazies. Something happens where it gets inside people's minds. They become these killers, essentially. Not zombies. In fact, these are more human than crazies. Crazies are still kind of zombies. But with the setup of like Night of the Living Dead, it just happens because. No explanation. But one day, just for whatever reason, some mass hysteria happens that makes parents want to kill their own children. Which, one, great concept. Two, what makes it even more interesting, it doesn't make parents want to kill kids. Like any parent or adult sees a kid, they go after them. It's their own like blood children. So you can have a parent. There's several scenes. You'll see a parent covered in blood. Like there's one where you see a guy across the street covered in blood, aluminum bat covered in blood. He's just kind of looking around. He's waving to the main character kids, checks his mail, and goes back in the house. I I thought it was a very interesting premise. Taking different ideas, stuff that we've seen before, but with a clever twist on it. This sort of global pandemic that takes over people, but done it in a way like the Crazies, where it's not ravenous, but more cold and calculating. And this is Nicolas Cage at one of his most Nicolas Cage performances I've ever seen. I mean, there's a scene in this that is on par with the filing by Alphabet in Vampire's Kiss. In that scene where he just goes, "I may say," like goes through the whole alphabet. Here he does it with the hokey pokey. Because the mother is played by Selma Blair, who I want to make sure. Okay, she was in Cruel Intentions, which I do like that film. But the one I'm actually thinking of. I could have swore it was her. Hold on. Could have done this earlier. Okay, I don't know who I'm thinking of. I thought she was the evil rich bitch from Sin City, A Dame to Kill For, the actual Dame to Kill For segment. It's gonna drive me nuts. Okay, so Selma Blair is the mother. Then you have Ann Winters as the daughter, Carly, I believe it was, and Robert T. Cunningham as Josh. Those are the two children. She's in high school. He's a young kid. And um, think about this. The characters, like, her character starts out awful. She is just a spoiled, rotten, just typical girl, teenage girl. Like, you have a scene where Selma Blair's bringing her to school, and we see her like phone screen up on the screen, like a lot of cool stuff like that, like with because it's directed by I forget the guy's name, Brian Taylor, who directed films like Crank 2, High Voltage. So if you've seen that, you know there's a lot of inventive, cool stuff going on. So like we see her texting conversation like on the reflection of the window, talking about, you know, like, do you get the money, bitch? And she'd be like, yeah. And then we get like a flashback of how she stole money from Selma Blair's purse because her and her best friend Riley, who I've seen before, Olivia Crocicchia, Dennis Leary's daughter on Rescue Me. I know I've seen. Was she? No, she wasn't. For some reason I thought she was like the gothy type chick on I Spit on a Grave 3. But, and like, we don't really get to see Nicolas Cage at all in this film for like the first half. Like, we don't get to see normal Cage. We see him playing with the sun a little bit, and then he goes to work, and that's it. But we get the idea that Nicolas Cage, he was this, you know, he's got this Trans Am. He bought a 79 Trans Am, bought it brand new in 79. He was a hellion, just loved beer, Trans Ams, tits. He was sort of the guy. He was the cool guy. And now he's having a midlife crisis. So we follow the daughter, Carly, her boyfriend, because I think they go to different schools because they're wearing uniforms, but he isn't. And so we see the girls buying drugs or whatever, and then there's like this mass hysteria going on. They all go outside. There's all these parents at the fence, and this one dorky-looking kid is beckoned by his mother, and he hops the fence, and then everyone just sees the mother killing him with her car keys. And I mean, it is a comedy because it's really given us the worst examples of people. Like, because Selma Blair is hanging out with Riley's mom, and Riley's, like, they go to some yoga or Pilates class, and Riley's mom is talking about how it's not about health, it's about staying hot, and how, you know, I'm proud of my daughter, but, you know, I just can't wait till those tits drop to the floor for being old, and just really vindictive, awful stereotypes of teenage girls, crisis dads, you know, I don't really want to say desperate housewives, but like the desperate wives and moms who are trying to stay hot and relevant. But when the Riley girl gets killed, that's awesome. Because I hated her character. I wanted her to die so bad. Because she was just that stereotype of just the awful teenage girl. And that's what we see on the news, how, you know, like, immediately they figured out that it's parents trying to kill their own kids. So, like, her boyfriend, he finishes his SATs, he finishes early, he's very confident. He goes home. His dad is falling asleep with the beer can. But of course, he doesn't know about the pandemic, so when his dad attacks him with a broken bottleneck, you know, it kind of hints that he's abusive and he's gone through this before, and it's like I'm guessing the underprivileged side of town. And I'm saying that because I'm guessing. Because the rest of it looks like the fucking OC. And it really gets interesting with, by the time Carly gets back to her house, because Josh is pretty young. He's like 8. And he's like stayed home all day. They have a Asian housekeeper who has a young son. We get the idea she killed him because she's trying to clean this blood stain off their kitchen. And so when she gets there, gets to the house, then her boyfriend meets her, then they get to her house, and then they got to protect themselves from Nicolas Cage and Selma Blair. That's when the real fun comes in. But before that, there was a scene that I thought was really ballsy. And I was surprised they did it. Selma Blair's sister is about to go into labor. So she gets the call, she goes in, she gives birth, and this is right as everything's breaking out. They give her the baby, and that's when it starts coming over her. She's like, see her eyes getting bigger, starts like shaking, and that's when they realize she's trying to crush the baby. She doesn't. They do stop her. But I was just like, damn. Because I'm pretty sure this was a theatrical movie. And the only time, it only made $169,000 at the box office. So, it's not that it was a bad film. It has a 75 on Rotten Tomatoes. I've heard a lot of good things about this film. I had a hell of a lot of fun with it. So yeah, that's when eventually Selma Blair will get there because Cage gets there first. And of course, he just cages right the fuck out. He's just yelling the way Nicolas Cage does. He's chasing the kids. Selma Blair comes home. She just kind of does like this mom look, and then they're teamed up. And one thing that I thought was really cool, and I wasn't expecting it, when Carly's at Riley's house and they're watching the news about what's going on, there's different experts on the news giving their 2 cents of what they think it is. There's like 3 people. The one in the middle, the bald Scottish guy, is Grant Morrison. The comic book writer, Grant Morrison. I saw him and I heard his voice. I was just like, there's no way that's Grant, because I know exactly what he looks like. I know his voice and his accent. Say what you will about his Batman run. This isn't part of his run. This is a separate book. Excellent fucking book. One of the most legendary Batman runs ever written, whether you like it or not. I'm not super crazy about it, but well, at least what I know about it. I got more books to get to first, but I just thought it was really cool to see Grant Morrison in this movie. It's like, oh, it's a fucking comic book Batman writer that I know. So the whole cat and mouse with the kids and Cage and Blair. Which the whole hokey pokey thing was the kids go to hide in the cellar and they see a pool table all beat to shit. And then there's a lot of flashbacks. Because, like, every time, like, when Selma Blair was trying to attack Carly, chasing her, Carly ends up in the parents' bedroom. There's a flashback of when Carly was a little girl, got into the mom's makeup, and she thought she was going to get in trouble, but Selma Blair thought it was cute and helped her with the makeup. And so there's a lot of flashbacks that kind of... But this movie is high energy and very fast paced. It's very short too. I mean, this movie's only 83 minutes. So I mean, without end credits, it's probably an hour 20 minutes. Very short film. So we get the flashback of Cage putting together this pool table, wearing a Misfit shirt, all proud of it. She comes down, they have the argument about how much it costs, and this and that, and building a man cave, and all this. And Cage just goes on this tirade about working his ass off with mortgages, and his hairline, and his, his stomach, and just about his life. And then she says something, and he's like, well, you're right, honey. I think I have a perfect solution. And he grabs a sledgehammer, and he just starts singing Hokey Pokey while he's busting up the pool table. You put your right foot in, put your right foot out. And he goes through the whole song. And, I mean, they try to gas him out. They hook. It's funny because they're deranged. They're trying to kill their kids. But they get the idea to pull the stove out, pull the gas line hose out, put the garden hose on it so they can run it into the cellar. And then Cage is just like, I don't think it's a good idea, honey. And they talk it over, and she's like, okay, I'm going to go out, put it through the screen, barricade it, and I'll tell you when to open. He's like, okay, I love you. Like, they still act like a loving couple, even though they're trying to kill their kids. I just thought that was a hilarious contrast. I mean, this movie is funny. It really is. And I mean, I'm not even a fan of Nicolas Cage. I love Raising Arizona because I grew up with it. It's a great movie. I liked him in Mandy. He barely had any lines, and he was a badass. Color Out of Space was a great film, but I thought he was a little distracting, trying to do Jack Nicholson Shining. Here, he just lets the cage is open in this movie. He's chasing the kids, barking like a dog. Like, he's literally low to the ground, like, arr, 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 arr. Of course, Josh hides in the Trans Am, which is Cage's baby. He starts smashing the windows. We get a flashback about how Josh found some dying animal, put it in a box, hid it on the floor, the back seat. He'd take care of it. Then it died. He left it. Cage found it, got pissed. And then, explain it to him. He bought him ice cream, so they're sitting there. He's having ice cream. He's drinking beer, talking about what the car meant to him when he was young, and all the tits, and all the girls, and all the tires, burnouts he did. And he's like, you're my son, I love you. But you touch the car again, I'll kill you. And that's right when he's smashing the windows. Or that flashback is right when he's smashing the windows. And the boyfriend goes through some shit. I mean, this was another different thing. The boyfriend is an African-American character. He doesn't, spoiler alert, he doesn't die. He's not the comic relief. He's not the stoner or the dumbass. Like, he's the academic student trying to do well. He's the one that knows what to do. He does get a brunt of violent shit happen to him. He gets cut. He gets stomped in the head. One improbable thing was he gets an unwound coat hanger through the cheeks. Don't really know if that's possible. And just, I really like the energy of this film. It's like, you know, pretty much take Crank 2, that kind of energy, that kind of editing and pacing, and put it to like the Crazies and make it Parents. Just really fun. It did have a bit of an abrupt ending because the kids finally get the parents tied up and they start to say they're okay. Because the whole movie is really pointed to, you almost think it's like a social satire about how today's kids are just fucking awful. Like Gen Z is fucking terrible. Yeah. I was gonna say they should have had something about Tide Pods in there, but it's not even a generation thing. I mean, kids could drive parents fucking insane. And just about, what if one day parents just said fuck it, or something just came over them and they all just went after their kids. That's why we keep getting these flashbacks of, you know, good times when they were younger. And, you know, sort of like that, you kind of get that levity with all the craziness. And it's all fit in very well with the very last line with Selma Blair. They're tied up, and she's like, you know, you're our kids, we love you more than anything else in the whole world. And then Nicolas Cage just picks his head up. He's like, sometimes we just wanna. Goes black, end credits. So I thought that was kind of clever. I liked that. You know, it really is one of those movies where plot doesn't really matter. Like, you can have implausible things. You can have something like a mass hysteria without an explanation, as long as it's fun. You know, like, I was going to say the Crazies, but the Crazies, you know, there was some sort of biological pollution. But, you know, it was entertaining. When the violence and kills were there, it was worth it. You know, there was enough blood, enough. Oh, I forgot one crucial thing that I thought was very smart. At one point, Grandma and Grandpa show up. Nicolas Cage's parents. His father, played by Lance Hendrickson, which I thought was very awesome. And it doesn't matter if your kids are kids or adults, they're still your kids. So you have like Cage and Blair trying to kill their kids, but then you have Lance Henriksen and who was the woman playing his mom? She looked familiar. Couldn't even find it. But they're trying to kill Cage. But it's funny because like Lance Hendrickson will be saying this mean shit and like threatening Cage. But then Joshua comes in, he's just like, hey, how's my little grandson? Then he gets all mean at Cage again. I thought that was a nice little, it's not really a twist, but it's just like a nice little expansion on the whole idea of the film. And there was some CGI because, you know, eventually Josh does get the Trans Am, blows it in reverse, backs out, but I watched it last night. I'm kind of forgetting, but the way the cars end up, Lance Henriksen and the grandmother end up dying. Like, oh, the car spins around and hits her, and I think he flies out the windshield or something like that. A little bit of CGI, but it was a very well done sequence. And if it's well done, I can accept CGI. And this whole film was entertaining. I can forgive a little CGI. It's not that big a deal. But yeah, this whole film, like, it took something about, like, and I saw this at the right. I didn't see this when it came out. I saw this for the first time last night during all this Corona shit. Saw it during mass hysteria, almost. So, no, another film I just happened to see at the right time. And I gotta tell you, I'm not a Nicolas Cage fan, but some of these horror movies he's pumping out are actually, even if he's annoying or so over the top that it's amusing, he's been in some good ones, like Mom and Dad, Color in Space, Mandy. Older one, but he was in a movie called Frozen Ground about Robert Hansen. That was an actual good movie, like a serious movie. But yeah, this movie was a lot of fun. I really like the concept. I like how they just kept going with it. Like, hey, show it with a newborn baby. Hey, what happens when grandparents are around their full-grown kids? Really shows, more so than The Purge, seeing neighbors who are all bloody because they just killed their kids. Just really fun, entertaining movie. It's on Hulu. If you haven't seen it, I recommend it, even though I just spoiled the whole thing for you. But anyway, Mom and Dad, pretty damn awesome. Thank you for watching.